Hi, this is Andrea Campbell. I'm here today to present my proposal for utilizing online flashcards and quizzes in an on-ground film analysis course. Here's the problem. Because of the way the course is designed and the time constraints of the semester, many students do not have enough time to practice the skills that they're learning in the class before they have to demonstrate them in a summative assessment. In addition, the teacher, in this case me, can't tell which students have mastered which skills until they're grading the work, in which case it's a little bit too late to help the students. The solution is to utilize online software to create flashcards and quizzes. This will allow the students to practice the skills at their own pace outside of class before they need to utilize them for a graded assignment. In addition, the data that is provided by the software will alert the teacher to problems that the students are having early enough for there to be an in-class intervention. A little bit of background. This is being designed for a traditional undergraduate introductory film analysis course. It's first going to be used in my classroom, and if it's successful, I'll be sharing it with other professors I know who utilize the same textbook and the same approach to the material. The software that we'll be using is free. The students will only need to have access to a computer or a mobile device, which they already have. The teacher, me, I've used this software already before, so the amount of learning necessary is going to be slight. I'll be using it in a little bit of a different way, but that should only be minor changes from the way that it's already been used. The biggest resource will be my time. Creating the online materials is going to be extremely time consuming. However, if it's effective, it will be well worth the effort. Current course design. The way the course is designed now, it covers 6 modules. The first one is thematic analysis, and then 5 screenplay, cinematography, music and sound, production design, and editing, which cover the different elements of filmmaking. The goal is for, in each module, the student to be able to identify the specific elements of filmmaking, to utilize the proper terminology. So for example, in film analysis, we don't talk about the clothes that the actors wear, we talk about the costumes that the characters are wearing. And then to look at those various elements and see how they're utilized to convey the theme of the film. The one exception to this is the very first module, which covers how to identify the theme of the film and how to properly express it. The different learning activities that are currently used, the students each read a chapter of the text, which explains the material. There is a week's lecture and discussion on that material. They then take a quiz on the terminology. They watch a film in class together, and then they each prepare a report in which they identify the theme of the film that was watched and analyze how the elements were used to convey that theme. The current learning tools or strategies, the students hand in notes on their chapter reading, thus ensuring that they actually do read the chapter before they come in to have the discussion. They're given the quiz questions ahead of time because the quiz is strictly memorization. Learning the proper terms of the discourse, having the questions ahead of time ensures that they're studying the right material. Essentially, memorizing answers to the quiz is studying for the quiz. Sometimes they're given guided notes to help them process the lecture material. I have experimented with this. This helps them focus in class on what's really important. It's all new information and it can be a little bit overwhelming. Sometimes I use that, sometimes I don't. In addition, each student is required to meet with me during the semester at least once to discuss their progress in the course. That way I can identify problems they're having ahead of time before it becomes too late. The assessments that are currently used are the chapter notes, the in-class quiz, and the analysis report. Additionally, at the end of the semester, there is an exam. The questions for it are taken directly from the quiz questions. The students as a class vote on how many questions they want on the exam, and then I take that many out of the quizzes. So if they have been studying throughout the semester on the quizzes, then they should do well on the exam. The goal of this proposal is to help solve the problem of the time constraint. We're only in class for a week because we don't have a film viewing lab. That's enough time for most of the students to grasp the general ideas, but it's not enough practice time. Some of the students get it in that amount of time, others don't. The idea behind this is that would give every student the amount of time that he or she individually needs to practice until they get the material. Implementation. Phase 1, here's the plan: to create online drill and practice flashcards and a formative assessment. We're going to use the free software tool Kahoot to create these 2 additional learning assignments. There'll be 2 for each module, and they'll be available online for students to use. Flashcards. Flashcard style drill and practice. This will help the students identify both terms and visual elements. So there'll be words, but there'll also be pictures. There'll either be the term, what is the proper term for this, or there's a picture identifies this low angle is at high angle, is a long shot, is a close-up. So they can both identify the visuals and remember the proper words. The flashcards will be formatted similar to a quiz, but the grade will just be conveying you've mastered this percentage of the material, which of course is what a grade actually is, but is not necessarily how students traditionally relate to grades. They see them more as an end rather than a communication tool, so hopefully this will also help address that. The flashcards can be done as many times as they want until they feel confident that they're getting a good percentage of it successful. Additionally, there'll be a quiz utilizing the same Kahoot formats. This will be the same material that is going to be covered on the in-class quiz. They already get that quiz ahead of time, but I think the way most students use it is more of recognition practice than actual retrieval practice. They'll get an actual grade online. The grade will not count towards their grade in the class, but it'll function more like a mock assessment. So it's a mock quiz. If you were in the class doing this right now, here's the grade that you would get. It's a formative assessment. The students can practice the material before they take the summative assessment in class. The advantage of this assignment: the format makes sure that it is retrieval practice rather than recognition practice. They can practice the material at their own pace until they're confident. They can identify what they don't know and need to study more before there's a grade attached to it. Additionally, as the teacher, I'll know who is using this material to study, how well they performed, and if there are any particular elements that are causing a large percentage of students a problem, and therefore I can adjust in-class activity accordingly. So if, for example, I see that 70% of the students got a particular quiz question wrong, then when we go into class before the quiz, I can say, hey, it seems like a lot of you are having a problem with this concept. Let's take a few minutes and discuss it before you take the quiz and we watch the film. The advantages to using technology for this: first of all, in film it's very visually driven, and this will allow me to put images up there that the students can analyze. Trying to do that on paper would be extremely cumbersome. The flashcard database can be started with one particular iteration of the course, and different images can be added over time, so it can get bigger and bigger and become more effective over time. One set of flashcards can be assembled in one place and can be accessed by all students. So rather than having to put together 10 sets or 50 sets or 100 sets of flashcards, one set of flashcards, everybody can use them. The students can access them at their convenience, and they can use it with devices they already have. The teacher has that same convenience and has access to data on how successful the students are, who's utilizing materials, and how they're doing. Implementation phase 2. The role of the activities. These are additional activities we're going to be doing, not in place of, but in addition to what's already happening in the class. They will be contextualized with the students as study strategies and formative assessments. There will be no grade attached to them. They are in fact voluntary. The students don't have to do them, just like they don't have to study anything else. But I'll make it clear that these are designed to help them understand the material better. And if they are not doing well on the assessments in class, when we meet, we can draw a correlation there. How are you using these study tools? And perhaps if you use them, you might do better in class. In order for the students to understand how they work, I will have some sample. At the very beginning of the semester, we'll go over how to use the flashcards, and we'll go over the quizzes in class so they can see how they work. At the end of each module, I'll also review the analytics I've received at that point. Say this percentage of the students did use the material. These are the questions that people tended to get right or wrong, so that they can understand what's going on. Phase 3 of the implementation, evaluation. Evaluation of these tools is going to take place both during the course and at the end of the course. The test for their effectiveness is going to be if the student's performance increases over the way students have done in this class in the past, and if there's a correlation between the students who are using the tools and that increased performance. At the end of each module, I'm going to look at the analytics that I get from Kahoots and compare that to the students' performance. I'll also talk to the students more informally to try to gauge their assessment of the tools. Do they perceive them to be helpful? Do they perceive them to be cumbersome? Do they think that they're hard, difficult to use, take a lot of time, and do they feel like they're worthwhile? During the course, and we'll talk in our one-on-one meeting with each individual student, how it's working. Is it useful? Is it not useful? And at the end of the course, I will give them a written evaluation to assess the tools. I will also do a meta-analysis over the whole course. When I do the meta-analysis, I'm going to be looking to see, did the students who used the tools do well in the course? Did the students who didn't use the tools perform significantly differently than those who did? Did the students perceive them to be helpful, and did they perceive them to be valuable? Sometimes something is helpful, but it takes so much time or it's so difficult to use, it isn't worthwhile, even though it's helpful. And was one of the two more valuable than the other? Were the flashcards more useful? Was the quiz more useful? Or do they perceive them to be about the same? And do the results show? And with all of that data, I'll decide whether or not I want to continue using them the way they are, maybe add to them, make the database of flashcards even bigger, utilize them but change them in some way, and if so, try to figure out what changes, or stop using them, decide that they're really not that helpful, they're not increasing the students' performance in any significant manner. So that's my proposal. I'm anxious to hear what you think about it.